My dad disowned me after I came out. 20 years later, I was the only one who showed up when he collapsed. Why did I save the man who abandoned me? My name is Ryan Clark. I'm 38 years old, and this is the story of how I saved the man who once made me feel like I didn't deserve to exist. I grew up in a town where difference wasn't just disliked, it was punished. Middle of nowhere, North Carolina. A place where Friday night football mattered more than grades, where church wasn't just religion, it was law. Where fathers handed down toughness like it was the family name, and any softness in a boy was beaten out, shamed out, or run out. My dad, Paul Clark, was a construction foreman. Big hands, bigger voice. He was the kind of man people listened to, not because they respected him, but because they were afraid of him. Including me. Especially me. I realized I was gay when I was 12, maybe even earlier. It wasn't some dramatic moment. It was quiet. Simple. I saw a boy in my class smile at me and felt my stomach twist in a way I'd never felt before. It was terrifying, because even at 12 I already knew what that meant. And worse, I knew what it meant in my house. My mother was quieter than my father, but not softer. She was a master of pretending not to see. She kept her head down and folded towels with precision while my dad barked orders, mocked neighbors, and cursed about those people on the news. I used to wonder if she noticed the way I flinched when he yelled, or the way I stayed silent at dinner. If she did, she never let on. High school was hell. I kept my head down, never dated, never talked too much. The rumors still found me, of course. Someone saw me reading poetry during lunch. Another said I looked at a boy for too long in gym class. The whispers grew into taunts, the taunts into locker shoves, and one day, into a fist to the stomach in the hallway. I didn't fight back. I went home, threw up, and told my mom I had the flu. I planned to tell them, my parents, after graduation. Once I had my diploma, once I was accepted into college, once I had a way out. I thought if I was perfect enough, they'd still love me even if they hated the truth. I had it all mapped out. But secrets don't wait for permission. I was 17 when my dad found a note I wrote. It was never meant to be read, just a journal entry about how scared I was. How much I wanted to be seen, accepted. He read every word. That night, he didn't yell. He packed a bag. Meaning. He threw it at my feet and said only one thing. Not in my house. My mother stood behind him. Not crying. Not fighting for me. Just still. I slept in my car for 2 nights. Then I called my Aunt Carla, my dad's estranged sister, the black sheep of the family who lived in Raleigh. I barely knew her. She took me in without hesitation. I knew he'd do this, she said when I arrived. I just hoped I was wrong. Carla was everything my parents weren't. Loud. Compassionate. Messy. Real. She had cats and a garden and books on every shelf. She let me cry. Let me be quiet. Let me breathe. She also helped me finish high school. I got into a college in Virginia. I studied psychology because I wanted to understand why people hurt the ones they should love the most. I worked nights, took out loans, and kept my world small. Relationships were rare. Trust was rare. But I was free. Fast forward 20 years. I'm living in Chicago. I have a partner, Leo, kindest man I've ever met. We've been together for 6 years. We own a small apartment near the lake. I work as a trauma counselor. I help others put themselves back together because I know what it's like to fall apart alone. My parents? I hadn't spoken to them since I left. Until one morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. It was a nurse. My father had collapsed in a grocery store parking lot. Heart failure. He was stable, barely. He'd been living alone since my mother passed 2 years earlier. No friends. No close family. Just one name listed under emergency contact, in his own handwriting. Mine. He wrote me down. Not Kyle, my cousin. Not his coworkers. Me. I don't know why. Habit? Regret? Desperation? Leo sat beside me in silence as I stared at the phone. Then he said, "You don't have to go, but you're allowed to choose." I booked a flight the next morning. The hospital was gray and quiet. He looked smaller than I remembered. Fragile. Tubes in his nose. Wires taped to his chest. His eyes opened when I walked in. He blinked twice. His mouth twitched. And then he whispered, "You came." I sat. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Eventually he said, "I thought you'd hate me forever." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something inside me, the part that had become a counselor, a partner, a man, just said, "I did. For a while." He nodded. I deserved that. I didn't forgive him that day. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. But I stayed. For 3 weeks, I managed his care. I talked to doctors. Set up rehab plans. Got his medications in order. Every time he said thank you, it sounded like a confession. One night, I found a shoebox under his hospital bed. Inside were old photos. Me as a kid. Me at 10, holding a soccer ball. A photo of me and Mom at the zoo. He kept them. Even after all that hate, all that silence, he kept them. I cried in the hallway that night. Eventually, he was discharged. He asked to come stay with me in Chicago. I said no. Not yet, but I found him a place near Aunt Carla. She visited often. They talked. They laughed. She told him stories about me, the ones he'd missed. He started calling me once a week, then more. We never said, I love you. Not directly. But one day he said, I watched the video of you speaking at that youth center. You made those kids feel seen. You're good at that. I said, I know what it feels like not to be. He paused. Then whispered, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I didn't say it's okay. Because it wasn't. I said, thank you. Years later, he died peacefully. At his funeral, I gave the eulogy. I didn't lie. I didn't pretend. I said, my father wasn't a kind man, but he tried. Late, clumsy, broken, but he tried. And sometimes that's enough. Not because it fixes everything, but because trying is where healing starts. I don't believe every person deserves a second chance. But I believe we all deserve the right to choose, whether to close a door forever, or open it a crack to see if anything's changed. I opened that door. And while I didn't find the father I wanted, I found closure. And in the end, that was enough.